Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Spaced Out Radio, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I am really quiet tonight. Really quiet. I don't know whether my headphones are not working properly or what, but I sound really quiet. I don't know. We'll figure it out as the night goes on. If I got to jam up my microphone like this, it's going to make things sound even worse. So let's not do that. I think I just blew out Varla Ventura's ears, our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Before we bring Varla on in, let's say hello to everyone here in our chat room tonight. All right, we have Race Fan back in the gold medal position. We have Ann B sitting in silver. And Roy the Boy taking home his bronze for the second night in a row. There's Jeffrey DeRuin. There's Erismana and Mennonite Abe. Evan Walters is here. Fapster is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio. To the left of the studio, if you do not mind. Moving on here, Tony Harris, good to see you. Dogface Boy, a.k.a. Simon in Australia. Nice to have you back, my friend. Andrew, how's the trucking going? Let us know here if you don't mind. And there is our resident Black Dragon. We love our veterans around here. Black Dragon, a former Marine. Hey, every veteran here has a safe home right here on Spaced Out Radio. So make sure you check it on out and hang on out with us if you like, because that's kind of what we do around here. I'm trying to get the lighting taken care of. Dennis Zuniga, nice to have you here. And come on. Oh, wrong button. Son of a... There we go. All right, there we go. Let's move on. And let's see who else is in the chat room, shall we? D. Cohen, nice to have you here. Awesome Ann Palmer, the gorgeous Kathy Evans. John Hinoyosa, nice to see you. And Vash the Impaler, good to have you back. Obi Flett, my man, how are you? Stu Gerson, nice to have you here. And who else is joining us tonight? Well, let's take a little look. Robert Garcia is here. Yeah, good morning to you. Joshua S., nice to have you back. And let's see, I think that's where we stopped. And moving on. Let's move on. Grandpa Holland, nice to have you back. And who else? The scowling Greg O'Brien has returned. He'll scowl for you. And by the way, the scowling Greg O'Brien will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Moving on, there's Luscious Jewels. And who else is here? Let's see here. Who else is here? There's the lovely Melissa Nicole. Simply Coco is here. What is your drink of choice tonight, my beautiful friend? By the way, Simply Coco will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio. Please bring sangria for her. All right. Desert Rat, good to have you here. The gorgeous and talented Kira has returned. Brown Dwarf, nice to see you. Boom to gorgeous Bama. The vivacious Vixen Doe is here. The stunning and talented Nicole Sakic. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Long Island Bigfoot, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. And Bigfoot Michigan Rob, he'll be back later on tonight for the Cryptid Report. Papa Willie, how's the bodyguard doing? Mr. Lurks-a-Lot, good to see you. And who else is joining us? The gorgeous Fidgety Aura, 416 Bitcoin. Nice to have you guys here. The lovely Aunt Edna, Downshift. Nice to have you both here. Be More Dan, always a pleasure to have you here, buddy. Carfunibre, how you doing, buddy? The stunning Pam Smith, good to see you in the studio. Welcome back. I don't see you in my studio, though, except on the screen. It's kind of weird. Ironic. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? All right, got the radio side going there. All right, let's move on here. Who else is joining us? Science Bob is here, everyone. And we love our Science Bob around here, as we got about 25 seconds to go. And who else? We got Mama Susan. Always a pleasure to have you here. And Jim Christie. Nice to see you. Where's Doug Shelby? I can't find Doug Shelby. How do we start the show without the Doug Shelby? Oh, shit. Andy Jones, nice to see you. Super Chat is open. So is our store. Penman, good to see you. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Talk Stream Live, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out the Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right, here we go. It's a great show tonight as we welcome back our cryptid countess, Varla Ventura. Ooh, cryptid countess. I like that. I just came up with that. She's back for our cryptid world. Then in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller has another spooky story for us. Bigfoot Michigan Rob filling in for Super Duke on the Cryptid Report. It's Dave 101 night, and Shirky Poo has the news. Each and every month, we have a little ditty here that we call Our Cryptid World, where we bring in author, researcher, and downright good person, Varla Ventura, to come on in and join us to talk about monsters that walk among us. You can find any of her books at any major bookstore. She is well respected, well published, and well authored throughout the mystique of monsters. And not just the everyday monsters, the darker ones, the darker side of monsters. So tonight, before the show, I was talking to Varla, and she's like, "What are we talking about tonight?" And I'm like, "Let's talk about lady monsters. Let's make it a real feminine monster night." Now, of course, our show never seems to go the way we actually plan it because of all of you taking it in the direction that you want to go with your questions, and that will likely continue. But first, let's say hello to our great friend, and there she is, Varla Ventura. VarlaVentura.net is her website. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Monstresses. I think that's where we landed. Monstresses. I really like Cryptid Countess. Thank you. I really like that one.
I love it. Love it. Cryptid Countess. It suits you. I could actually see you doing like vampire type photo shoots with the words Cryptid Countess. But
maybe with like a weird like creature hand reaching out toward my neck or something, right? Yes. I mean, yeah.
Yes. You're reading my mind. Totally reading my mind. But what's happening, my friend? How you been?
I've been okay. Yeah. Happy belated birthday. I'll just say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're a couple days late, but that's okay.
It's your birthday week. I mean, who doesn't Want to celebrate their birthday all week.
Oh, I hear you. I totally hear you. I got new lighting in the studio now for our
Yeah.
YouTube show,
See that?
and I can't figure the damn thing out. Like, just when I think I got it, I don't have it.
Yeah, I actually got a new lamp, and it really threw everything off. And so half, I like this half,
I
the
feel like
dark half, but
I
then.
feel like I like the light right
Oh,
to my
you
face.
got one of those things. I hate those things.
I hated the halo too, but look, I'm angelic.
But look, it works really well. It's very flattering. Yes.
Yes, I tend to think so too. You
I
know,
just
if it
keep mine kind of misty. So like you keep it down low here.
sure.
Yeah.
You are known
Countess and all.
you are known as one of the top cryptid writers in North America, and you may I know you're too humble probably to accept that title, but I've interviewed a hell of a lot of people, as you know, and I'm willing to put that tag on you right like that because, well, I have the authority on this show to do so, you know. And I want to ask you, I mean, there isn't many
And I
questions.
respect your authority.
Well, thank you. Thank you. There isn't many questions over the last couple of years that we've really got to know each other that I haven't asked you before. But I'm going to start off with this. You know, our subject tonight is going to be female monsters because everything seems to be tagged with man on the end of it. Dog man, everything. I think the only real female monsters that men really know are succubuses. We could thank South Park for that, right?
Yeah, right.
That's about it. How come the monster world seems to be so heavily dominated by men rather than women?
Well, it's a male-dominated society. I mean, we're getting past it slowly but surely. But I mean, men like to be reminded they're the boss. So I think that some of it, I think that's some of it. I think, there's a lot to unpack with that, honestly, because I do think that even within mythology, the way that female characters and monsters and goddesses are portrayed are often kind of skewed, including witches, mermaids. I mean, there's definitely some bias there about sort of what their agenda is. And I'm not here to say they're not out for blood, but I think there's and it's not just, I'm not saying all men only like to see big, giant, muscly aqua men on the screen. However, there's plenty of women that enjoyed Aquaman, I'm sure. But I just think
plenty of men too.
Plenty of men too. I don't know. I think that women just are, constantly overlooked and sort of treated second rate. And it is something that has been changing. And I'm certainly not accusing every man out there of doing that. But as a society as a whole, where we are today, women are still not equal. They're just not. They're not equal in pay. They're not equal in rights. And they're certainly not equal in representation. But it is getting better every day. So hooray for that. But I mean, even within the paranormal world, even within the paranormal community, it's long been dominated by certain men. I mean, there's, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's gatekeepers, right? We've run into these gatekeepers again and again. And I'm not saying that men don't run into those gatekeepers also. A lot of us run into those gatekeepers. But, there's certain pressures on women on how they look, how they behave in public. We can't get drunk in public.
Trust me, neither can men.
So all of these things said, I just think, now that you've opened the can of worms, I think there actually are a lot of female monsters that are celebrated that we just don't think about. A lot of us think of like Medusa, right? Like we think of Medusa as kind of like one of our main our main female monsters. But a lot of the monsters, if they are female, they are pretty extreme. And then there's just like there's fewer of them. But it doesn't really matter if, you know, the mother monster is the one that gave birth to them all in the mythology, right? So that happens a lot. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with the divine feminine and how it's represented in monster culture, for sure.
Do you think it has to do with the fact that, you know, women, you know, especially when it comes to the cryptid world, even going back to the days of you know, ancient Greece and ancient Rome, where the outside of Medusa, the women, the female god or the goddesses and everything, they're known to be more motherly, nurturing, you know, caring, rather than being a sea hag in a Popeye cartoon, right? I mean, that's, you know, whereas, you know, Hades and all of the other gods, you know, that were striking vengeance on humanity and other cultures were very, very forceful, very, you know, bloodthirsty. You know, does it kind of go along with that?
I mean, there's what I think goes along with that is how those myths have been told and retold through specific lenses. Because there certainly are plenty of vengeful, wrathful female goddess stories, you know, in various cultures. But another thing that's also kind of significant here is I do think, well, for one thing, I think women are better at hiding than men. So I think that there's some stuff that has been kept under the radar, probably most deliberately. And certainly in terms of dealing with anything demonic or any of the occult arts or anything that might, you know, if you're in communication with the divine and then people think you're a witch, there's very good reason that we would want to keep the spotlight off of us. You know, being murdered, you know, being burned at the stake, like all those kinds of things. But again, I think we have to, and I say this because I read a lot of folklore and a lot of mythology, and I read a lot of stuff that has been obviously translated and then translated again and translated again, whether that's from Irish to English, Welsh to English, Greek to English, because I don't read in any other language. So I think like a lot of those interpretations and translations have been done through a very specific lens. And I've said this before in terms of like what we know about, for example, the werewolf canon. Some of the most comprehensive information that we have, or that I've certainly ever seen about werewolves and werewolf mythology and the possible existence of werewolves, came from a couple of different sources, but one of them was a man, and he was actually a reverend. And so, and what he assembled is pretty amazing. It's this massive volume about werewolves and the existence of werewolves, and he was obviously pro werewolf. Like he really thought that they were real, and had seen these rituals and examples of it as he was traveling through the kind of outskirts of European civilization, trying to convert people to Christianity and making all these records along the way and talking to people. And it's a fantastic book. I love that book. But when I read it, I recognize that I'm reading it through the lens of a fairly well-off, educated man of the cloth from, you know, about 1850, which was like peak men getting to do whatever they wanted. Basically. Excuse me, specific men, white men. not all men, but certainly white men of a certain class, not even all white men, just men of a certain class. And he was of that class. And I don't say that to disparage or to discourage anyone from reading it. I say it that I knew all along as I was reading it, and you can tell right off the bat because of some of his comments about pregnant women and how they have something within them that can be attributed to, especially when they're pregnant, how that can be kind of attributed to werewolfian behavior. So he's got some very specific ideas, this guy. But anyway, his lens it's a lens. We all do that, right? We all have our own biases of like what we've experienced and what we see. But a lot of the written record is from that. And so that's changing. And I think the people who are translating and going back and retranslating these things and looking at it with a different lens, that's happening. And as that happens, we educate ourselves, whether that's, from an indigenous culture or it's, Greek myths looked at through a whole new lens. And that's not to say that hasn't been happening. There's women who ran with the wolves did that with fairy tales, back in the 80s. And that was a woman who took apart fairy tales and looked at them as they were sort of more of like allegories for how women were expected to behave. And so anyway, that's my point, is that everything is kind of maybe filtered through a specific lens that doesn't necessarily put women in the best spotlight, especially in terms of monsters.
Right. So moving on here, let's go through some of these monsters that because werewolves always seem to be men.
Ooh. I totally have some girl werewolf stories.
Okay, give us those stories. Let's
Okay. Well, actually, it's probably not quite as exciting as you would think, but women were frequently accused of being werewolves around the same time of the witch craze in 1600s in Europe, when everybody was like sucking on ergot, which was basically this like poison that was on wheat that everybody was eating. And it was making them all high and hallucinate. And so you were accused of kind of three things if things went amiss. And it was, either a young townsgirl or an old widow you were accused of being, or if you were, a perfectly lovely woman whose husband wanted to get rid of you, you could also be accused of being a witch primarily. And that was kind of like the big buzzword. But you could also be accused of being a vampire occasionally. Most second to being accused of being a witch, you would be accused of being a werewolf. And so I have a fun one here that I was flipping through my book earlier, and I was like, oh, this is a fun one. I want to read this one aloud if we talk about werewolves. It's pretty gross, and that's what makes it fun. So we have time. We have time.
We have 6 minutes.
Oh, we've got plenty of time. So this is the title of this little section is called "It Runs in the Family." You'll soon find out why. In 1598, a poor girl named Pernette Gandillion ran around the country on all fours, believing she was a wolf. One day, I should have like a disclaimer. This is going to talk about murdering innocent people. So,
Oh, nice.
just so you know. One day, she was running through the fields when she spied two children plucking wild strawberries. Don't know why it was wild strawberries. Blinded by a thirst for blood, she pounced on the little girl, but was gashed in the side by the girl's little brother, who was carrying a knife. Pernette wrestled the knife from the boy and stabbed him in the neck, killing him instantly. When the townspeople caught wind of this, they hunted Pernette down and tore her to pieces. And then shortly after the horrifying incident, Pernette's older brother, Pierre, was accused of witchcraft. He was charged for leading children to the Sabbath and encouraging them to run around the country as if they were wolves. Pierre used a salve to coat the children's bodies and transform them into werewolves. He was able to transform as well and admitted to devouring both animals and humans. Anyway, he goes on to do like many more murderous things, but it was his little sister that inspired him. His little werewolf sister. So isn't that nice?
That is beautiful. Inspiring your little sister to go on a murderous, vampirous rampage. That's so romantic.
No, he was inspired by her. She did the murdering first. So, right. That was the original female werewolf. And then I have another one in here, and I'm not sure exactly where it was. I was trying to find it, but it was this wonderful story about this woman who they find her in the morning, and her husband is torn. This is probably about, I don't know, 1600, 1605, something like that. And her husband's body is just torn, like limb for limb. There's an arm over here and a leg over there, and there's just blood and carnage everywhere. And she's just sort of sitting there in the morning in this like pool of blood and this kind of dazed look on her face. And they drag her out of there and they start questioning her, and they sort of rifle through her skirts, of course, and flip her skirts up. And underneath they find a satchel that has wolf's bane and several other kind of like strange herbs in there. And they declare that this was her magic pouch that allowed her to transform into a werewolf. And apparently she then went on to confess that she wasn't entirely sure what happened, but she thought it was plausible that she had transformed into a werewolf and torn her husband limb from limb. So
interesting.
Fun.
Scary, but interesting.
Terrifying. Yes.
I don't get why are we so violent? Tearing the face off the husband.
Well, I know, and I'm just saying.
Whatever happened to the good old days of just lopping off someone's head? I mean.
Well, that was saved for kings. I mean, they had nice sharp guillotines. Everybody else had these like really dull daggers that they had to just sort of like carve away at.
Right.
Good weapons were for the rich.
Yeah. So instead, we had to use dull knives.
Yeah.
And
butter knives and fingernails and twigs in the forest.
Mm-hmm. I get you. We got about 90 seconds left on before we have to go to break on our Cryptid World with Varla Ventura tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And before we get into the second half hour, succubuses. We might as well get this one right out of the way because, for many of us, we always worry about the succubus and the incubus, or succubi, incubi, if you want to go plural. It is something that, it is something that, do you think there are succubuses and incubuses still running around?
Probably. I mean, something that can like sort of just jump on you and draw the life out of you. Yeah. Latch onto you. Yeah, I think there probably are. I think they've always been around and they just get called different names, So I do think that we have a lot more like, we don't just like sleep out in a field all that often. I mean, I know you occasionally do, Dave, when you go out hunting and such, but there's
no, not me.
No way. You're more of a glamper.
I am total. I don't even glamp right now. I'm a homebody.
Yeah, I'm sure that they are quite real. And, I think maybe we are more aware of them or we have more protections. Things around us that we don't realize ward them off. Other names for it, other ways I once had a psychic tell me I had a thing from the astral plane had come down and latched onto my right shoulder, and she could just see it there. So,
Varla, you need to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. VarlaVentura.net is her website. Varla comes in once a month for our Cryptid World. We're going to continue the Monster Talk on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we is clear.
All right. What was that? That was horrible.
Just to answer a private question from Grant, yes, I am wearing pajama bottoms. I am wearing pajama bottoms.
I am too. I'm wearing, well, I'm not going to show you. I'm wearing sweatpants. I'm wearing a nice top and sweatpants. That's how it goes, right? It's called your Zoom top. Business up top.
I have no problem. Mine are white and navy blue checkered.
Mine are gray with moons and stars. That's perfect, right? That's exactly the kind of pajamas I would think you would have and I would have.
Those are glamping pajama bottoms. Total glamping.
No, glamping pajama bottoms are silk.
That's only if you're in like the $200,000 motorhome.
Yeah. The tent that someone digs your own latrine for you just before you settle in. Your very own. Yeah.
Thanks for getting into the pajama bottom talk, Grant. Completely your fault. Completely your fault.
Oh, it's completely like changed fashion, especially like women's fashion. There's like all of these brands that are coming out with things that are like, they're basically calling them like day pajamas or like pajamas that you can wear to work. And they're just like, you know, not yoga pants, but like yoga pant material, but they kind of look like dress pants, or they kind of look like something's, you know, like, oh, just put a pair of heels on with that. No one will know. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure someone's going to notice.
Yeah, that's Varla's answer to everything. Just throw a pair of heels on it.
That's right. Or at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. I
know I'm on a roll. Yeah.
I wear my pajamas. I'm that dude who wears his pajama bottoms to the gas station.
Oh, are you? Oh, I am not that lady. Yeah.
I am totally that dude. But then again, I know everybody there.
So it's just like they would think if you were dressed up in like jeans, they'd be like, oh, fancy meeting today.
Let me just see something here. Hold on. This is where I got to do two things at once here. June. All right, sorry. Trying to book a guest at the same time.
Oh, that's all right. This is technically downtime right now, right?
I know. Just the way it is. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Yeah, I will not wear pajamas to Walmart. I will not do that.
That's just a step in the wrong direction.
You know, I won't pull the FAP and wear my pajama bottoms, you know, to the grocery store or, you know, to, you know, the movies, to a football game.
No one can see you at the movies.
I hate the movies, honestly.
I haven't been to the movies in so long. I just realized that. And that's funny you say that because I actually love the movies. And I was like, I want to go to the movies. I haven't been to the movies. So I think I might take my son to a movie this weekend. Pretty sure he doesn't want to see Downton Abbey, though. Probably going to settle on The Secrets of Dumbledore.
I friggin' hate the movies. I hate movies.
Why?
I'll tell you why. My parents, my two older sisters are 10 and 7 years older than me. And let's just say the oldest went super wild. The second one went middle wild. and I got ruled with an iron fist. So through my teenage years, while my friends were going to parties and hanging out, I was stuck at home on every Friday, Saturday night, having to have movie night. So I would go down to the movie store, rent a couple of videos, and
But that's not the same thing as going to the movies. And
well, hold on.
honestly, now, do you really think you're going to watch the movie?
Next break.
Okay.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. From our cryptid world here on the mighty SOR, we have the lovely and talented Varla Ventura, who comes on in and hangs out with us once a month for a great show on monsters. Her website, varlaventura.net. You can find her books at any major bookstore. Varla, welcome back.
Well, thank you.
Yes. Do we continue our debate here?
No. We don't need to. I mean,
Okay.
I want to hear the rest of your story, but
Okay. Well, we'll fill in the radio audience. We were talking about going to the movie theater, before, I haven't been to the movies in years because I hate movies. And it's not that I hate movies. I can find something better to do with my money, number one. And number two, I mean, there's no reason why a movie night should be $100 night or even a $50 night. I mean, by the time you get your popcorn, your candy, and your drink, it's like $38.
Okay, Dad.
Look, it has nothing to do with okay, Dad. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that I got better things to do with my time. And I spent so much time renting videos as a kid and in my teenage years because my parents ruled me with an iron fist that I absolutely am sick of movies. Sick of them. So this is why.
How do you feel about drive-ins?
Drive-ins I like. Drive-ins are cool.
Okay. All right. Okay. Compromise. That's a great compromise.
I have no problem with compromising
on movies.
But I will say this. There are certain movies I want to see. Okay. I want to see the new Top Gun coming out. All right. Because, growing up in the 80s.
Of course.
1986. I mean, Top Gun was everything.
It was a big deal. Yeah.
It was everything until you study aircraft and realize that it was impossible the way Goose died. It was absolutely impossible. All right. That bugged me. And the fact that they were calling F-5s or T-38 Talons MiG-28s. That's a lie too, but that bugged me.
Continuity error.
Yes, that bugged me. So, but I want to see Top Gun again. I do want to see Top Gun again. And I also, another movie I haven't seen yet that I wanted to see, and it's already a couple of years old, was Bohemian Rhapsody. I wanted to see that.
I never saw that either.
I want to see that one, but I just have a tough time paying.
That'll come to the drive-in.
Paying $20 for it to on Amazon Prime.
Okay, so let me just make a couple points in pro movies, and then we can move on. Okay, so my points pro movies. So actually, unlike you, I didn't get to go to the movies a lot when I was a kid. We lived in this really rural, weird place until my friend, my best friend, her parents bought a movie theater. And I think I was probably about 11 years old. And they used to just let us go to the movies all the time. Whenever we wanted to go to the movies, we could go. We could go for free. So that was really awesome. And then one of my dearest friends is a movie theater manager in San Francisco. So if I wanted to go to the movies, and he always plays like really cool old horror, and he would do these midnight mass shows and show like horror movies at midnight, and they do this whole kind of like drag thing. It was just so fantastic. So again, I frequently didn't have the price tag associated with movies. Now, to me, I go so rarely that I don't even care how much it costs, because to me, it's a treat. It's like going to do something that, is kind of special. And so you pick a special movie and you go with a special person. Also, you don't always have to watch the movies. So if you think movies are boring, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in movie theaters. That's why I asked about drive-ins, just to clarify. And I don't know, to me, I just love movie theaters, and I don't go very often. And because of that, obviously, like I'm not going to be spending $100 every weekend going to the movies. So I understand what you're saying. However, I do think there's a time and a place, and that can be once a month, perhaps every 3 months when you go to the movie. There's just something really special about going to the movies. Our theaters were closed for 2 years here. So they're finally open back up again, and I want to go to the movies. And I'm not going with you, obviously.
No, you're not going with me. I'll be at the bar, down the road watching.
No. You don't understand. They have bars in movie theaters now.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. All right. Here's another thing I hate about Hollywood. I hate CGI. I like the old days where the stunts were actually done, and nowadays with all this CGI and everything, I'm not a fan of it. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. All right. I'm just not. And
yeah, I mean, I like to go to horror movies. So that's what I save up for. I save up for, I think the last movie I actually saw was, I think it was the second It. That was really fun. Certain things are just fun. It's so fun to go to a dark movie theater and everybody is like totally freaking out, and it's just kind of, hilarious. I love it.
I agree with Mournful Mantelope in our chat room. Bars in cinemas are wrong. It's wrong.
Well, as if you didn't sneak something in. They just figured out everybody was sneaking in beers in their purses.
I'm not a rule breaker like you, Varla Ventura.
Yeah, I'm a rule breaker, and I'm proud of it.
That's why your son turned out to be a goaltender in hockey.
That's right. And he's really good at it.
Now it's all coming together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to be watching you, Varla Ventura. We're going to be watching you.
But
all
not
right.
At the movies.
Not at the movies. That is for sure.
That thing reminds me of, did you watch Romper Room? Did you ever have Romper Room up there?
No,
up
not
north up there in Canada. You didn't have Romper Room? Where the lady put her head in the thing, and she looked through a mirror at the end, and she said, when I see Johnny and I see Lillian, and she would like say all these kids' names, and you'd be sitting there every week hoping she would say her name. You could totally do a bit with that device, and you always read off people's names that are in the chat anyway, so you could do a little Romper Room bit.
That seems really creepy. No, I grew up. We had the trifecta.
Talk about monsters, so.
No, we had the trifecta up here. Starting at 10 a.m., it was Mr. Dress Up, followed by the what the hell is it? I forget. The Friendly Giant. A couple of Canadian broadcasts.
Yeah, definitely Canadian.
And that would take us to 11 o'clock, where Sesame Street would come on in June.
Yep.
All right. And then after Sesame Street, we had the Electric Company.
Yes. That
All
was
right.
totally the lineup. Electric Company came on at 11. Totally. It always came on at 11. That was the lineup. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, but your prior to Sesame Street, there were a couple of variants there that were a little different where I grew
Yeah.
up, but
Yeah. And then,
Romper Room was probably one of them, actually. It was like a, weekday morning show for the kids that weren't in school yet.
yeah, Mr. Dress Up was like our version of
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. I mean, just
Oh,
an amazing show. And he had his
cute.
puppets, Casey and Finnegan, and it was just a great, great show, and he always went over to his tinkle trunk to get an outfit that he would wear. They would do some acting and role playing. It was cool. I mean, he was like a god in Canada.
Yeah.
He much like I said, much like Mr. Rogers.
Like Mr. Rogers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Mr. Dress Up. I'll have to look up YouTube videos of him later.
Yeah, we do have, before we move on here, I know we're wasting time here and people want to hear monsters. We do have a listener. I'm not going to mention his name, but I mean, your son is old enough. I mean, your son is 10, I believe.
11. Yeah.
Okay, 11. So he'll be in the age category. We do have a gentleman who listens to this show almost nightly, who is one of the directors and producers of, the Paw Patrol.
Oh my God, my son was always he was either Chase or he was Ryder, the kid who told everyone what to do. Frequently he was that kid. In the scenarios in kindergarten on the playground, that was all the rage. That was all the rage.
Here this I'm going to cover my son's face here. But this is my son.
Oh, yeah. That's Chase, isn't it? He's the cop, right?
Yeah. It's on the case.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's on the case.
Yeah. So I'm pretty proud. When I found that out about him, I was just like, oh my God, cartoon celebrity here.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That is a big deal.
Huge deal. Huge deal.
Yeah.
Right. So, yep.
One time I reviewed, I was reviewing for a little side job I had. I was writing some articles and they wanted me to review the Paw Patrol movie. And I think my son was he was like 7 then. So it was kind of like, he's just kind of getting over it, but really, really fond memories of it, but still a little bit into it. And he helped me write it. I was like, come on, we have to have all the snappy taglines. I mean, of course, you watched it so much, you already kind of knew them. So
I agree. Loved it. Anyway, let's get back to
some. Let's scare the children, shall we?
Let's scare the children. Cartoons and Disney Channel is nothing like real life. I think the scariest thing about television for children today is the fact that if you go on every Disney Channel or children's channel, Nickelodeon, that the minute that they turn adult, you immediately become stupid. You ever notice that? Because kids all solve the problems these days. Adults are dumb.
Yeah. Until they get to a certain age and then they become a grizzled detective. I feel like you and I are getting into that. Like we're almost to the the next hero phase of our lives, right?
All right, monsters. You're going to talk. Yes, go ahead.
Do you hate spiders?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you do. Then you won't want to talk about spider monsters then.
Well, we can
just touch on it.
We can talk about spider monsters. Sure.
Just look to see if there was one on your ceiling. Just double check, make sure.
Speaking of spiders, my son put a plastic spider and stuck it to the inside of of my moonroof in my truck. And I forgot it was there.
Oh, does he know you're afraid? Yeah.
Well, yesterday morning, I caught it out of the corner of my eye. And I looked up and I screamed and I hammered on my brakes and almost caused an accident.
Oh,
Right?
Jesus.
Because the thing is like 2 inches big. And nuts.
You
But
want to know
anyway,
how you can get them back? You go and you get a tiny little like plastic cockroach, like you can get at like the gag store, and you pack his cute little school lunch or his little snack, and you put that in the bottom of the box. It'll cause complete mayhem in the cafeteria. It's hilarious. All right,
okay.
so we won't go into gruesome detail with spider monsters, but there's probably one of the most. So there's a big creepy spider monster in the Lord of the Rings, and that's actually based on Arachne, who is also kind of associated with Greek mythology. She wasn't exactly a goddess. And she basically was like this really beautiful woman who was a really, really good weaver, like had like crazy mad weaving skills. And Athena was super jealous of her because, Athena got jealous from time to time. I mean, and this is the shortened version of it, but basically she challenged Arachne, Arachne challenged Athena to basically like a weave off. Who could weave the finest silks between the two of us? And when Arachne clearly made the most beautiful thing, she could weave words in and out of her in and out of her tapestries, and she was also beautiful to boot. Athena punished her by turning her into like this hideous spider creature that was basically like doomed to lurk in the back of caves for the rest of her life. And that's where a lot of our spider monsters from It, the thing that was transformed in the sewer, to like anything that's kind of like half human, half spider, they kind of all come from this core. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them come from this idea of the half woman, half spider that was Arachne, or is Arachne, should I say. And there's lots of spider myths around the world about spiders creating. Now, I love spiders. One of the reasons I love spiders is spiders are responsible for words. Spiders created the first language. That's in many different cultures. They talk about spiders weaving and having symbols in their webs that became the first language. And so, of course, being a word gal, I love spiders. Also, I love spiders because I love creepy things. And Dave, you're probably not going to feel the same about me anymore. But I don't kill spiders. In fact, I scoop them up with my bare hands and I let them crawl down my arm until they get outside.
So do I. I will admit that.
I'm sure you're not a blatant spider killer.
I may not like spiders, but I can tell you this. If I see a spider in my house, I leave it.
Smart.
Yeah, because that means if a spider is in your house, you don't get other bugs.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I love spiders. I like to put them in my garden frequently so they can entrap all those rotten little aphids that like to suck the life out of your leaves. Those are the real life succubus, aphids.
Well, then my ex-mother-in-law is an aphid. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, probably. And you're the leaf, or you were. You're not. You've been sprayed. You're immune now.
Yes, I know I've told this story before, but I will say it again.
Yeah.
When the night I got married to my ex-wife, I was having my dance with my now mother-in-law, and she whispered in my ear, "I am going to be your worst nightmare." And then she laughed, and I
That's
sorry.
horrible.
Yeah, and
That's really horrible.
I laughed about it, not realizing how true that she was.
No, you would just assume someone's joking and they're just being kind of like funny and a little bit tipsy in that situation.
The good Christian lady who hid behind her Bible. All right. Like
Oh.
it got to the point where she was trying to deny that I was the father of my daughter. Like that's how bad it was.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, what a horrible, horrible woman. Horrible woman.
Sounds, yeah. You had me at Bible. I mean, scary.
Well, I mean, I could tell stories about
Well,
this.
we're talking about monsters. Get it off your chest. I mean, we're talking about female monsters.
This is why nothing scares me anymore.
Yeah,
because
right.
I had to live through her, right?
Yeah.
And it just I could go off on that one. That would just set me into an absolute counseling session, to be blunt.
I'm here for you. I'm a good listener.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have no idea what that's like to actually not have a monster in law.
Well,
Oh yeah. Yeah. And but oh, this show is off the rails.
All right, let's reel it back in. Let's talk about Banshees for a little bit. How about that?
We got 3 minutes before we got to go to break here. So 3 minutes to talk about Banshees.
Yeah, okay, I can do 3 minutes on Banshees, no problem. Banshees, I think many people are familiar with the idea of a banshee, especially if you've listened to us talk before, because it's one of my favorite topics. They're these fantastic sort of fairy realm creatures that are also considered some of the most horrific monsters in the world. They transform from being beautiful, always beautiful woman that transforms into something hideous. But some of the most gruesome banshee stories, the last time I was in Ireland, I heard some incredibly gruesome ones. Just on a tour of a little castle, I heard. And then I was walking to some magical cat cave, and I heard this lady say, "Oh, is this where the banshee runs through?" And I thought, maybe I should, stick around after everyone leaves and see what happens. But basically, a banshee is usually in the form of a woman, but also can kind of be sort of see-through and ghost-like. Almost has a very vampiric appearance, can be very pale, long dark hair, similar to La Llorona in Mexico. You have this sort of weeping woman. She might be seen washing out bloody rags in a creek, or I've even heard stories where a banshee doesn't necessarily scream, but you see her and she looks like an old washerwoman, and she's sort of washing something out in a creek, and it's like a severed limb, an arm or a leg. And then she, of course, turns and screams. And then, of course, death is coming, because that's what banshees are. They're a portent of death, which is, of course, very monster-like of them to kind of show up and declare that someone you love is going to die. And they do that through a scream. Sometimes they do that by transforming into this kind of very fangy vampire looking thing, and then they can transform back into something rather beautiful. And they also have a very mournful cry. So there's a lot of stories all around the world that are very similar to just the traditional Irish banshee, often seen at places of battle. Or it's even said, if you see this creature that you're gonna die, because she's pre-washing out your blood-soaked clothing before you go to battle. There's all kinds of disturbing things that are associated with the banshee. So yeah, that's pretty scary. I find them particularly scary, especially because if you hear one or you see one, it means that death is coming, and it's not usually for you. It's for someone that you love.
Well, on that note, Let us go to break here at the top of the hour. Female monsters. Varla Ventura, the Cryptid Countess, joining us from varlaventura.net. You can find all of her, what can we say, her books on any major bookstore in North America. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Sorry, I'm a little verklempt right now. The Edmonton Oilers just knocked out Calgary tonight. Fuck yeah!
Oh, yeah, I know that's your team. I've been watching them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hockey gods are back.
Yeah. You guys could go. You could actually go to the Stanley Cup Finals. It could happen.
We're going. We're 4 wins, 8 more wins. I gotta go celebrate. I'll be right back, Varla Ventura.
Okay. Let's read about Banshees, shall we? This is bonus material for people who aren't not listening right now. People who are listening, bonus material. Let's see. Where's a good scary description of a banshee? La la la. Oh, well, here's a recipe for a screaming banshee. That's yummy. Actually, it's kind of gross. It's vodka and banana liqueur with creme de cacao and cream. Shake with ice and serve in a chilled martini glass. I've tried it once. I really wanted it to be good because I just thought how cool I could go and order a screaming banshee. And I tasted it and fake banana, ugh, gross. So not really that good, but there we have it. Screaming a banshee. Oh yeah, here's a werewolf. I'll do werewolves because I found that before I found the banshees from my book. Werewolves are not always, here's some fun facts about werewolves, and one of them is werewolves are not always male. The 1588 story from the mountains of Auvergne tells the tale of a she-wolf whose paw was cut off by a hunter. When he opened the bag in which he had placed his prized paw, he discovered instead a woman's hand. It didn't take long to figure out who was missing the hand, a nobleman's wife, and she was burnt at the stake. That's one way to end a marriage. Other crazy, creepy things include other were creatures, such as werebears, were-dolphins, were-cats, and were-sharks. So it depends on, where you live. Where you live. Get it? Dave should have muted me. We all know that, right? The piano has been drinking. The Banshee. Oh, here we go. This is from my book, but it's actually from William Butler Yeats. The Banshee from Bane, a woman, and she, Said, a fairy, is an attendant fairy that follows the old families and none but them and wails before a death. Many have seen her as she goes wailing and clapping her hands. The cane, the funeral cry of the peasantry, is said to be an imitation of her cry. The carning. Yeah, it's carning. When more than one banshee is present and they wail and sing in chorus, it is for the death of some holy or great one. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I forgot about that. An omen that sometimes accompanies the banshee. Oh, this is really cool. The omen that accompanies the banshee is basically like a headless horseman. It's called a coach barar, or a coach a bower, an immense black coach mounted by a coffin and drawn by headless horses driven by a doulahan. And a doulahan is basically a headless horseman. Kind of a creepy monster guy.
Right now.
What?
Happy man. Woohoo!
Yes, I know. Did you just go outside and scream for a minute?
I sure did.
Yeah.
I sure as son of a gun did. Hi, Bill WD40 and Jeff and the gorgeous Ronnie listening in on Spreaker. Good to have you guys here.
Spreaker.
Yes.
Yeah. So who do they play next?
Don't know yet.
Oh yeah, we'll find out tomorrow, I think.
I know. I'm excited.
Well, should I tell you who I'm rooting for? Probably not. Probably
Well,
not.
Let's see. Tomorrow is. Let me find out here. Son of a gun.
I did one of those brackets this year at the insistence of my son. Do this bracket, Mom. It's just for fun. You know, the bracket where you like whatever, say who you think is gonna. I'm in last place. I'm not actually in last place. I'm in like third to last place. Because he said it's just for fun. Just pick who you want to win.
Yeah.
Not who you think is gonna win. And so I
picked Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, I figured if I was picking who I thought was going to win, I would not. Sorry, but I would not have picked Minnesota. Although we have a new fabulous goalie, but you know he came late. So
yes. All right.
What's going on?
Well, Colorado and St. Louis tomorrow night. Colorado leads the series 3 games to 2.
Yeah,
I think Colorado
that.
Finishes it off tomorrow night, and Edmonton and Colorado go for the Western Conference Final. That's what I think.
That's great. That'd be great. I'd love to see that.
Me too.
I'd love to see that.
Me too. It's amazing. I'm so.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Umentus is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Varla Ventura. VarlaVentura.net is her website. You can find all of her books at any major bookstore or online. And of course, she comes here once a month to talk about monsters among us. Hour 2, we will take questions if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter. And for tonight, though, it is all about legendary female monsters. And right before the break, we were talking about succubuses and incubi, and we were getting into banshees. And what else you got for us, Varla?
Yeah, well, I did a little bonus material, just so you know. I won't repeat myself, but there was a little bonus material there while you were out celebrating out back. Celebrating. Well, okay, let's talk about, so banshees, I think, are like, we kind of got into that. We touched on werewolves and female werewolves. So we can kind of go back to Greek mythology, because I do feel like in Greek mythology, you definitely there's some heavy hitters you think of, right? Especially the things that people had to battle. And one of those creatures that a lot of us think of that they had, that's one of the most horrifying creatures is actually like the Hydra or the Cerberus, which is like the multi-headed dog. Well, someone had to give birth to those horrible creatures, right? And that's where we have Echidna. And she was basically like the mother monster. And she's a pretty pretty. You know what? This would be a really cool book, just like all female monsters. This would be a cool book, Dave. Don't you think? All female monsters. I bet I could probably pull some things out of the archives of, you know, ancient history there. But anyway, so she is really disgusting and kind of like she's half snaky serpent. And so a lot of people, and I believe this is a mistake, mistakenly think that she gave birth to Medusa. As far as I know, she did not. She gave birth to several terrifying creatures. You know, a fire-breathing half goat thing, and the Hydra with all the snakes. But she was basically like half serpent. She was really quite hideous, and she had, you know, she kind of populated the world, the Greek world of with all of these like horrible monsters. So she's kind of like the mother monster. And so when I was looking and I was researching some stuff about her, and then that kind of led me down the like Medusa path, because I feel like Medusa is the one sort of monster that we're all pretty familiar with, right? We see her like wild hair full of snakes, and we know that if you look at Medusa, she can turn you to stone instantly, basically like kill you with a look. But not everybody knows Medusa's backstory, which is like actually really sad. She was, of course, again, she was very beautiful, and she was sought after by many of the gods, including Poseidon. Everybody thinks Poseidon was so great because he was the ocean god, and he was pretty cool for a lot of reasons. But if you really get like deep into Greek mythology, you start seeing a lot of non-consensual behavior, I'll just say. So Poseidon went after Medusa, and she refused him. And as a result, he gave her this curse that she couldn't look on anyone else without killing them. And so she became incredibly vengeful from there on out. And I mean, you know, you kind of, you just go with what you have. And that's how Medusa kind of really got that really, really bad rap. But here's something I learned tonight. I knew that about Medusa, but I did not know that Medusa actually had two sisters. And I wrote down their names because I knew I was going to forget. Did you know Medusa had two sisters?
I had no idea.
I know, right? And they were named Stethno and Uriel. And they were also half snake, horrifying beings, but they were, you know, not as pretty as her, so they never had the like sort of the curse put on them because they didn't catch the eye of Poseidon and his, you know, penchant for Medusa. So that I was delighted that I did not know that, and I learned that tonight. And I don't know how I had no idea Medusa had sisters. How cool.
Now, did they have hair as snakes as well?
No, I think they were just sort of plain looking. And so she had coils of beautiful hair. And that is what turned into, you know, well, it kind of depends on like different accounts. I've actually read different accounts. I've read that she was like born as this like half weird thing, and Poseidon really liked that. I've also read that she was just this really beautiful woman, kind of like Arachne, who was transformed in the same way, right? Like just basically cursed and ended up like with this death stare. But as far as I know, they did not. They were just kind of plain. But again, I never heard of them until tonight. So this is something that I will be researching further. You know, the sisters of Medusa, I had no idea. It was like there's all these lost siblings of these horrible monsters, you know, that like just went on to live ordinary lives, just like, you know, the sister of the serial killer or whatever just goes on about, just tries to, you know, be a good person or whatever.
Well, I mean,
toil in the fields.
You know, for a lot of these, what about witches and curses?
Oh, shall we talk about witches and curses? I mean, that's one of my personal favorite topics.
Let's do it.
Okay. I mean, do you mean, is that what caused them to, is that what caused these things, that they were caused monsters or created monsters, or
what would cause that? Was it about being scorned by society?
witches giving curses? No, it's because witches give curses. It's because witches play with the elemental powers of earth, and therefore they play also with life, death, revenge, light, dark, all the good things. I've heard. So I've heard. No, I mean, witches do. Okay, so the thing is that there's a very small facet of witches who actually don't believe in cursing. It's actually in the minority. I'm sorry to tell you folks. I know you've heard a lot because Wicca got really like widespread publicity, but the harm none thing is a little bit of a farce. You know, that's a little bit of a Christianized do unto others as you would have done to you, right? Karma, all that kind of stuff. Witches, for the most part, don't do it willy-nilly, but they do it when they need to. So I do think that traditionally people came to witches who were healers, or, you know, witch is an umbrella term, right? For a lot of different type of figureheads in different societies. So maybe it was the healer, maybe it was the medicine woman, maybe it was the the little old lady who lived down the road who was an herbalist or whatever. But these witches were come to, and they asked, they were asked for things like they were your best friend when you wanted to get a love poppet, or the things that would like turn a man to fall in love with you, or would keep your husband from straying. Then witches were like, oh yeah, everybody wanted to visit witches, but they would frequently visit them, under cover of night for fear of also being persecuted themselves as a believer in witchcraft. This is post, Christianization. And they're also great scapegoats too. So some of those curses, like a pox that, knocked out all of the cows in the field. Oh, that was obviously Hagatha, right? Like Hagatha, she was out there in the night with her bonfire, twisting things. I saw her walking through that field yesterday, and then all the cows died. So there's definitely some scapegoat stuff happening there with curses. Having said that, I've witnessed a few curses, and probably been on the receiving end of more than one. So, I mean, it's like being a lawyer, I guess. I don't know.
Well, what would be the penchant for wanting to put a curse on someone?
Like, like you got all night? I mean,
you have 11 minutes. Give them some time.
Okay. Do you mean like in today's society?
Even going back then.
Somebody stole from you, somebody assaulted your children, assaulted your daughter, took your daughter's virginity without her permission. Called you names in the square, and then blamed you for all the crops spoiling, hit you, tripped you. I mean, like back then, right? I'm just there's plenty of reasons. Often it was somebody who was drunk with power that a curse would be put upon. So, like, it wasn't necessarily just with this wild abuse of power where you were just like, ha ha ha, I'm going to curse everyone. And that guy goes, and that guy goes, and that guy goes. It was like honestly, people were working for the greater good. And in that schema of working for the greater good, there were some bad guys. So that's who might be, who might deserve a curse. Also, someone might come to you and ask you for a curse. Now, that's something I've never experienced. I've never gone to someone and said, hey, could you curse someone for me? And nor have I ever had someone come to me and say, hey, can you curse someone for me?
All right. Well, let's get to Laura's question here. Can you explain the difference between a curse and a hex, or is there a difference?
I don't think there's too much of a difference. I think it's basically putting a harming spell on someone. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. Now, a curse can also be like we say curse words, right? So that comes from spitting out a spell, you think of like the little Italian lady's just had enough and she just spits out a spell, someone who stole her land or whatever, like that is often a curse. A hex can be a little more involved. It can involve ingredients. But by today's standards, they're kind of one and the same. So, yeah. But probably originally there was a little bit, more audible cursing out. Like you could put a curse on someone. A hex is maybe done under dark of night. That's how I'd read it.
Very cool.
If I were
Very cool. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and we are talking all things evil from the female perspective.
I thought it was going to go, but here we are.
You know what I find funny about Sasquatch?
Ooh.
is we all automatically depict Sasquatch as being a male species because it's big, it's burly, and yet if you go to the Patterson-Gimlin film from the 1967, okay, that is clearly a female Sasquatch. Clearly.
I also think that, first of all, we have not checked, right? Like, we don't have any way of actually knowing how to tell them apart, like, look at their like, it's not like we've gotten close enough to flip one over, right? But the other thing is that think about like a mother bear, right? Like what is more ferocious than a mother bear? So it stands to reason that certainly some of the more aggressive Sasquatchian behaviors could be attributed to a female protecting her nest, or her cubs, her babies, her little baby Bigfoots, her Littlefoots.
The Littlefoots.
So cute. It's so funny that you brought up Sasquatch because I actually just wanted to text you this the other day, but I've been listening to like the Sasquatch Chronicles a lot, but I have been listening to them at night, and I fall asleep like right away. Like there's something about people telling their Sasquatch stories that and I don't mean they're boring, but I just kind of the host has a really soothing voice, and I go to sleep, and I have had the most amazing dreams because the whole time I've got my like headphones in and I'm listening, and they're telling about this whole story, and I'm going in and out of consciousness, and my mind is just creating this terrific landscape where there's, carnivorous plants growing in one greenhouse here, and there's a Sasquatch peeking in. And I mean, it's been wonderful. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously there has been sightings of female Sasquatch allegedly carrying youngsters.
Oh, okay.
And there, the famous Patterson-Gimlin film, that was a female Sasquatch, but we always tend to think of it as a male creature, much like Dogman. We tend to think of Dogman as a male creature because it's in the name. Goatman, the same thing. Yeah. You don't hear Goat Woman or Dog Woman. You don't hear of the Frog Women of Ohio. You don't hear a lot of this. There's always
Moth
that
woman.
Yeah, where is Moth
Where's
Woman?
Moth Woman? I mean, if they reproduce, they could actually not require sex to reproduce. I mean, that's entirely possible if they're really like, and advanced monsters or whatever. But
for the moth woman, it would be larva. Larva.
Because it ends with a A. Is that why? Mothra. Wasn't Mothra a woman? Or a woman? Wasn't Mothra a female? Remember that? This was from a movie, which you probably didn't see because you hate movies. But Mothra was like this horrible giant moth creature. It was like a movie that was popular in the 70s, and it would roam through the town and scream. And the reason I know this is because my parents used to call me Mothra when I was little.
I would.
That's how I know. I know you wouldn't think that I would scream, but.
Do you have wings back then?
Well, we had them surgically removed, but they allowed me to keep one in a jar because I was so little. It's a pretty big jar, but still. And I take it on the road sometimes, so sideshow type thing.
Oh, I hear you.
They're immense. Yeah. So, but just going back to the female Sasquatch. I mean, of course, we're guessing at like the gender of it or whatever, but I think it's absolutely. Maybe there's some that are a little smaller. I mean, the thing is they're so seldom seen in anything more than one. It's hard to have it's like people, right? It's like you have no idea how tall I am until you actually meet me in real life. You have no idea if I'm taller than you or shorter than you. You know what I mean? So it's just like you've just obviously it's taller than you. It's this creature in the woods, but you don't know if it's taller than every other creature like it in its little group. And so it's difficult. It's difficult to know that. And then we see all the time in nature, right? Like sometimes frequently the females are the most ferocious. They're the most aggressive. They're larger. They're they're not usually hairier, but we could go there.
Well, even in nature, a lot of the predatory animals, a lot of the hunting is done by females. You look at lions and cheetahs.
Mm-hmm.
So, that does make sense.
Yeah.
It does make very good sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Wolves too. So there you go. But I don't know. I just think we just name things, and up until recently, it was very widely accepted that we were mankind, right? We weren't man and womankind. We're mankind, right? Like we're mankind. We're not, cisgendered or you know what I mean? Like we're mankind. That's kind of what the general accepted term to refer to all of humanity has been up until more recently. And even womankind was only thrown in the 60s, right? So it kind of just, I think it's just like old habits, just dog man. I don't know. Maybe it's because we find them threatening. And if we say that it's dog woman, then that just has like a whole other level of terror to it that we're not ready to accept.
Could very well be.
Or maybe the females are better at hiding, as we said earlier. That could be.
Could very well be. The hunt is on as we have Varla Ventura here for another half an hour on Spaced Out Radio. We got about 45 seconds left before we have to go to commercial at the bottom of the hour. Now, Varla, as we move forward here, I think the next half hour we should take a look at, mermaids. Everybody loves the mermaid story. We can't go into the female monsters without mermaids.
Yeah. And there's another real scary water monster, but I'll save it for after.
Sure. Let's go to the water. Let's scare the hell out of Dave. Since Dave will
sharks.
Were sharks, yes.
No, we don't have to go to were sharks. But we can talk about mermaids. Mermaids are a really good reason to stay out of the ocean. So I understand your I recognize your fear.
Varla Ventura, we love her around here. VarlaVentura.net is her website. And we are Spaced Out Radio. Second half of the show coming up right after this. Hey, Bobby, in the chat room, the way the Oilers were scoring tonight, that extra goal would have meant nothing. We would have popped it right back in. Either way, the Oilers are on their way to the conference finals. Feels good.
Such a good feeling. I'm happy for you. I really am.
16 years it's been since we were in the conference finals. 16 years. A Canadian team has not won the Stanley Cup since the curse of the Montreal Canadiens in 1993. 29 years. And we're going to do it this year.
Could be your year.
Do it. We're going to do it.
Your year.
Feel it. I'm going to feel it. I swear to God, if it comes down to clinching games, I screw everything. I'm going to Edmonton. I'm going to. Of
course.
I'm
You're just gonna stand outside the stadium if nothing else.
I got a buddy of mine who's pretty well off. I know he knows how to get tickets, so I'm going to be hitting him up, and I'm going to say, hey T-Rod, old Davey's coming. You better pick up some tickets for us, man. Oh yeah, we're going to get there. We are for sure going to get there.
Can't you just can't you buy them now? And then if they don't go, never mind. I won't even say those words. That would be silly.
Well, no, I mean, hey, there is a possibility.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, if my team's out, then I'm voting for your team. I mean, my team that I'm voting for now, not the team I knew wasn't going to win. Don't you want to know who it is?
I'm going to say you're not a St. Louis fan. You're a Colorado fan.
I am going for Colorado over St. Louis, but it's the New York Rangers. That's who I love. I know, right?
Well, I mean, everybody's got a flaw, right?
Yeah, yours is movies. But if the Rangers don't, I think they're 3-2, not in their favor. So we'll see.
Let's take a look here. What's the series at? Yeah, Carolina's up in that series.
Oh, God.
Oh, Carolina. They're up 3-2.
Although they do have a really cool, I do like their logo because, they're the hurricane. So it's just like this swirl. It's pretty awesome. I like a good hurricane.
I hate their logo. I think it's ugly.
What? It's just a swirl. It's like, it's the most obvious thing ever.
I've always hated their logo.
Really?
Yeah.
I like it. So there. We're really deepening our friendship by getting out the things that we don't have in common. Just like,
I know.
Now and again,
I know.
Because we have a lot in common. Yeah.
I can't say that, Carolina was my favorite team to cover back in the day. I will say that I did party with the team one night in Vancouver. That was fun.
You know who I really like the whole vibe of are the Knights. Yeah. And then I love the Kraken logo. Do you love the Kraken logo or are you disappointed by it? The Kraken logo is awesome. Yeah. And that's just such a great name. Yes. Thank you for choosing a mythological beast. Like, yay. A monster. They picked a monster.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it. But what's really cool is the Knights assistant coach, a guy by the name of Ryan Craig. I coached his little brother, and I used to train.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah, he I'm so happy
Well,
for him.
you know what? He can hook us up next year in Vegas.
I don't play that card. I don't play that
Okay.
card.
Well, he can just come say hi. Because I think that will be, right around the right time. won't it?
Nicole wants to hear you do a banshee scream for us.
I will tell you, I'm not going to do it. But I will tell you, if you want to hear me do a banshee scream, there is footage of me on a show with George Norrie, and he asked me to do it, and he what? Nice. That was beautiful.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or parts of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight. Varla Ventura's Our Cryptid World. You can find all of our books at any major bookstore right around North America. You can go on our website, get yourself a VV hat, t-shirts, coffee mugs. Yep, they look good. They look good. They are Varla approved. Varla approved. VarlaVentura.net is the website. Varla, welcome back.
I should get temporary tattoos. That'd be a cute thing, right? We could try it out, and then we could decide if when we're in Vegas, what size we want.
Well, you just have to get...
We're getting each other's logos.
I am committed. I was going to get your logo in Vegas if you showed up.
Yeah. Can we just roll that over to next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Well, there was feelings hurt there. There was.
Sorry, I had medical issues.
I know you did.
I apologize for that. I apologize for not being there because I wanted to be there, but it was out of my hands.
No, I know. You and I had talked about that. I just like teasing you about it.
Do you?
Yes. Oh, by the way, message from Jeffrey in Texas for you that the Mothra movie was Godzilla.
Oh, wait, was it Mothra versus Godzilla, or was Mothra in Godzilla? No, Mothra wasn't in. It was Mothra versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like 1977 or something like that, right? I don't know. Obviously, I'm scarred by it. Sensitive spot there.
Yeah. All right, Mothra. Let's get ready to do it.
I mean, Mothra, Varla, you can see it, right?
It works for me. It's still two syllables. Still two syllables. Yeah. Let's get to mermaids and the scariness of the mermaids.
Yeah. Let's get to the mermaids, but we should talk very briefly before we get into sea creatures. We should talk very briefly about some of the river mermaid-like creatures. And so there's two major ones that I know of that are pretty scary. The Lorelei are the kind of half fish, half female creatures that are in the Seine River, which of course flows through Paris and other places. And so there's all kinds of stories and songs and folklore about the Lorelei. Some people say that the Lorelei is just sort of a cautionary tale because the Seine River looks very calm, and it actually has a very and it's kind of wide, and it's like a river going through this beautiful city. What could possibly go wrong? And it actually can have a pretty vicious current, especially in the shoulder season. So the Lorelei is said to, much like mermaids, create this sort of echo sound that you can hear from the banks of the Seine, and it sort of draws you down there, and you're drawn down to the edge of the river, and then you're sort of drawn down in a little bit deeper, and then the next thing you know, you're swept away in the arms of the Lorelei. So very similar to mermaids in that kind of, we're perfectly this beautiful, wonderful sound that makes you think everything's great, and you're just gonna just float away into heaven, and then the next thing you know, you're drowning. So that happens with mermaids and many, many other creatures. Sirens are actually another. They're not water creatures. They're frequently next to water, and they are half woman, half like eagle kind of bird, and they are frequently near rocks along the shore, and they do the same thing. They kind of make these sounds, and the sounds bounce off all of these other sounds, and you get very disoriented, and the next thing you know, your ship crashes, and everyone on board drowns. So, and then the other one that is kind of more from Russian folklore is the Ruskalisk. And the Ruskalisk, I'm sure there's versions of it all throughout Eastern Europe as well, but the Ruskalisk is basically, I've seen some pretty beautiful paintings depicting something like a Ruskalisk, and I'm probably not quite saying it right, but it's kind of comes up out of the river, and she's not exactly like half fish, half mermaid. She's kind of more just like this creepy thing that reaches out of the river with long branchy arms and kind of reaches to the bank and sort of pulls you and drags you in. And when the Ruskalisk gets hungry, whoever's playing, happily by the banks of the river will get pulled in. And there's equivalents of this in swamplands, and you have Jenny Greenteeth or Peg Powler. Those are from Welsh mythology, and they're basically these like kind of creepy things that are in more like still water, so more like ponds and bogs, and they just sort of like reach their arms up when you get close, and they latch around your ankle, and they just quickly drag you under, and no one knows what happened to you. So those are kind of other water monsters, and they are all women, actually, or women. They're all female monsters, girl monsters. So yeah.
Okay. There's also talk in the chat room about harpies.
Harpies. So harpies are a little different because they're also they're a little bit more, well, I guess mermaids, technically, I think mermaids are psychopomps. Harpies are frequently considered psychopomps, meaning something that takes you from this world to the next, whether it's willingly or not, right? And some people actually equate them with the Valkyrie, which are from Norse mythology, which are also female, and they are also winged creatures that swoop down in battlefields, and they pick who's going to Valhalla and who's just going to go back to the drudgery or whatever. And so harpies are kind of similar, but maybe a little more like sirens or mermaids in their beautiful but disorientating kind of sounds that then they can turn into a scream. So, but they are usually winged and kind of beautiful face. They can have beautiful faces. They can also have like crazy, horrifying gnarly, long-toothed faces. So, there's so many. Now that once you start thinking of one, you realize like how many there actually are. But we do kind of dismiss the femme monsters a lot, huh?
And the fembots.
Yeah, well, fembots are easy to dismiss.
They're very, very dangerous.
Yeah,
Bots.
they are.
Look at
well
Austin
endowed and dangerous.
with guns in their giblies, you know?
Yeah.
Well, come on. That's funny. That
Is
is
it?
funny. Nobody got that?
I mean, there are other parts of Austin Powers that I thought were funny. I didn't really find the fembots particularly funny. I was like, oh, they kill you with their nipples. Ha ha ha.
They had machine guns. They weren't nipples. They were machine guns.
Okay. Potato. I know. Let's go to a
Vargas.
double feature.
Yes.
It'll be Austin Powers like 1 and 2.
Yes. Then the next night, 3.
Yeah.
Female monsters is the topic tonight on Spaced Out Radio with Varla Ventura as we continue on with our cryptid world. Now, mermaids, we've talked dozens of times on this show about mermaids and everything that kind of goes along with them and their history of luring sailors, wishful, horny sailors into
not just sailors, pirates, of course, but also just passerbys, people who were just strolling down the beach. Yeah.
Okay. Why what is the lure and the attraction that they use in order to lure their prey?
Usually it's a combination of voice and beauty. So especially if you don't see them from the waist down, right? Mermaids are, although I have seen some really scary drawings on like old maps and stuff of mermaids, but their top half is like a fish, and then the bottom half is like legs walking out of it. And that's like, to me, somehow that's even more terrifying. But they use a combination of, their feminine wiles. They're beautiful. They usually have like long flowing hair, and they're kind of unexpected, right? Like you're just like trying to pull in your nets or whatever, and there's this kind of like beauty sunning herself on the rocks. Or often you'll see them just sort of like I said, from the waist up. So they might be in tide pools or just kind of like partially out of the water. And this is enough to kind of like get them from, get you from whatever it is you're doing to look at them. And then they kind of engage you with a song. So there'll be a beautiful song, or they'll just start talking to you and telling you some kind of story. There's one story in my book about this mermaid who basically tricks this guy into the water because she starts telling him this really sad story about how she's stuck and she needs someone to help her get back into the water. And then once he gets her back into the water, she's telling him how horrible her husband is and how he'll eat all of her babies. And can he please just make sure she gets home safely if she doesn't get home in time? And so she just kind of keeps luring him back in. So it could be just a really, really good story, but often it's a song or, and mermaids also, they're not always solitary, right? So that's one thing that with some of these monsters, there's just like one of them. But with mermaids, you frequently will have more than one appear. And so like you might be able to resist one or think that one is a mirage. But if you see like, 6 or 7 of them, and then their voices kind of come together in unison and make this incredible song. And actually they say that about the Lorelei as well, that they can have these really, really beautiful songs. So they'll come together and sing. So the Lorelei isn't one creature. It's the name, like mermaids are for many creatures that live in the river. So, I mean, those are two things. I mean, are you thinking like what would actually get me into the sea? Is that kind of what you're thinking, Dave? Like what?
Are they luring men and women with song? Is it?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Song, disorientation, confusion, you know? There's a lot of things that, like, if I'm telling you this story and we're just like talking, but like you're not noticing that I'm actually like slowly pulling you under the water, and then the next thing you know, you can't breathe and you're fighting, but now it's too late because all of my like sisters have surrounded you and are also holding you down, like that kind of thing. Totally mermaids.
All right. Grant wants to know about the Ninjin. Have you heard of the
I don't know what that is. No.
Ningen?
I don't know what that is. There are, I mean, it's not related to the jinn, which are like, you know, kind of, we think of them as like genies or whatever, but they're demons, and some of them are female, although often they're depicted as male. But I don't know what that is. Should I make a note for next time? I'll make a note for next time.
No, for sure. I think you know, there's always something out there that is
like. I honestly, I think this would be a fantastic book. And what great illustrations it could have.
What about female gargoyles or gnomes or trolls? We never hear about them.
Oh, actually, trolls. I have heard quite a few stories of female trolls. In Iceland, in fact, there's sort of a mother troll who's also kind of a witch, and she lives in this specific mountain. And she has a bunch of troll babies, and they're what are actually known as the Icelandic Christmas trolls. And each one of them has like an attribute that they like over the 12 days of Christmas. There's like a troll for each night. And, you know, there's one that's like the sausage stealer and the pot licker and all these great kind of things that you're obviously trying to prevent the kids from doing all the preparation for Christmas. But she's kind of the head honcho there. And she's a troll witch. And she's rather large, and she lives in a mountain, and she's feared. And then in Scandinavia, actually, interestingly, there's quite a few stories of trolls not being these hideous beasts, but actually being almost more like some of the descriptions that I've read. They're almost more like the Nephilim, like they're like these very angelic, tall, with like glowing hair and kind of like they don't say sparkles on them, but they have this kind of like radiating light. And that's how these trolls are described. And they live in the countryside, and they live in the hills, and they protect the animals. And they call them trolls, though. They're actually called trolls. They're not called something else. So I always thought that was really interesting. That actually blew my mind, because I totally had like the troll haggy, like troll under the bridge kind of idea in mind for trolls. And as most of us do, and certainly most cultures kind of depict trolls in that way, or a troll-like being. But these were called trolls, and they were just these incredibly like beautiful, ethereal things, which really surprised me. So, yeah.
I got a question from Vaughn coming in here, a little bit off topic. What are your thoughts on the Loch Ness Monster and such animals found in lakes?
Yeah, so there's you know I'm a believer, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons that it could not be there anymore. There's a lot of reasons that it could be implausible, but I also feel like, you know, people say that about Bigfoot. People say that about a lot of things, and I personally believe in those things. So I think that like all the lake monsters now I recognize that they're also a great commodity, right? It's like, oh, we have a lake monster. Let's play that up. Let's put it on t-shirts. Let's get people to come here and see if they can see it. But having said that, if you look back into the folkloric record, and Dave, I'm sure you've seen this where you live, and I know in particular, I have seen Lake Gitchagummy, aka Lake Superior. I have seen pictographs, like pictograms along the shores on the Canadian side. If you go up to Sault Ste. Marie and you go around to the north shore of Lake Superior, you can climb down. In certain places, you can climb down and you can see these incredible, ancient paintings of the, of this Gitchigummy sea monster, which is this giant serpent with all of these spines all over it. And I am not one to dismiss indigenous myths, because I think that we do that really quickly and we just think, oh, they're just talking about this or that. And then we find like bones of some, giant like dinosaur that was once there. So, I don't know. I mean, I think it's entirely plausible that there are, just like take the Kraken, for example. I know that's not in a lake, but people for many years, right, in like modern times, assumed that this was like this great exaggeration and that there's no way that there's like this squid-like thing that could take down a boat. But put yourself back, 500 years or 700 years or 2,000 years, whatever, and your boat is way smaller. You're not talking about like a Carnival cruise line here, right? We're talking about these tiny little boats, right? And the ocean is more open. It's not as heavily harvested. So things get bigger. And of course, the giant Pacific squid, the Humboldt squid, I mean, those things are totally vicious, and they have pulled down fishing boats. They have put their giant tentacles up and pulled down on people thinking that they were like a seal or whatever. So if it's I just don't think it's as big of a stretch of the imagination as we think it is. Now, I have never been to Loch Ness, and that's, as you know, Dave, on my my Scotland to-do list. So, but certainly there's something magical about the place if there's all these legends that surround it. Could be a way to protect the water too,
Very true. Very true. Our YouTube audience will be able to see this, same as you. But John Hudson, the fedora-wearing John Hudson.
Oh, I love his fedora.
He did a depiction of what Varla Ventura would look like
as
a mermaid.
Oh, no.
Mermaid. Look how beautiful you are.
Oh, look at that.
Look how beautiful. Your tail, your blue, your Edmonton Oilers blue and orange tail, sitting on a rock, waving it all.
A little bit rock and roll. Yeah.
Yep. You look absolutely stunning as a mermaid. You would.
Thanks.
Look at that.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. That's sweet.
That's the fedora-wearing John Hudson.
That's what? Maybe I'll get a tail for Vegas. I mean, there's going to be a pool, right?
It's going to be hard to walk around. I'll tell you that.
Well, who knows? You're going to have to carry me. That's, it's going to be like a 1940s movie, You're just carrying me to the bathtub.
You be Daryl Hannah.
Happen without a tail, to be honest.
You be Daryl Hannah. I will be
the other guy.
The other guy. Wasn't it Tom Hanks?
I think it was, but you know what? Have you ever seen Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid?
No.
Okay, please. I know you don't like movies, but this is an old movie. It's a beautiful movie, and it's actually where they got the idea for Splash. And it's William Powell. I don't know if you remember William Powell, but he was in all of those Third Man movies as like the part of the drunk with Myrna Loy, and they were like the two drunk detectives that haphazardly solved crime. Anyway, he totally goes on like his honeymoon in the Bahamas or wherever, and he finds this mermaid and he brings her home. Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid. Watch it.
VarlaVentura.net. We'll talk to you next month.
Grazie.
Much appreciate you, my friend. You take
Thank
care.
you. Good night,
Next.
Dave. Love you.
Good night. We have the Swamp Dweller coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Varla Ventura.
That's a funny. I just saw that. Why are all monsters men? What a Pandora box to open. Yep. You opened it.
We did.
But
we did
we're
well.
never going to close it. I mean, we don't mind opening and poking things. Right?
Hey.
Hot
Is
stove
what it is.
toucher. Yeah.
All right, Varla.
Thanks, Dave.
Hopefully we'll
Love
see
ya.
you hopefully we'll see you in Denver.
Denver. Okay, I wrote that down. We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Varla Ventura, everybody. We love her. I'll be right back and go from there. All right. We got Bigfoot Michigan Rob in the green room hanging on out with us. And everything is looking good. And got about 1 minute to go. Thank you to Stu, Vaughn, Kira ×2, Nicole, Steven, Grant ×3, Christopher, and Long Island Bigfoot for the amazing super chats tonight. Very much appreciate it. Here we go, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Umentis. Umentis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Now, we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky story for you tonight.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. This is a short story, but 100% true. Roughly about 7 or 8 years ago, I was in a relationship. Let's call him James. James lived in a big house which he shared with his brother's wife, and their kids. James had his own section of the house with a bedroom, bathroom, hallway, and set of stairs to go downstairs into the main part of the house and access to the garage. I would mostly sleep over on weekends as we lived about 45 minutes apart and I worked in the city. Before I begin with the story in detail, let me give you a layout of the bedroom. The bed's headboard was against a wall with a window to the right and glass sliding doors to the right as well, which opened into the upstairs porch. A big screen TV was in front of the bed. To the left of the TV was a small hallway which led to a set of stairs that go downstairs. To the left of the bed, about 7 feet, was a glass table, an entertainment center which had a stereo system on top of it, which is key to the story. We always slept in the dark, but the TV and cable did illuminate a little bit of the room, because the lights and buttons all had LEDs. One night, which was just a regular night, nothing odd or out of the normal, James and I went to sleep. Keep in mind we were not drunk or high or under the influences of any other drug, and nor did we do any of those. I remember suddenly waking up feeling very uncomfortable. As I laid there on my back, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what was going on, I couldn't help but notice the feeling of intense dread and doom. It felt like something was bearing into my soul. I looked over to my left and James was fast asleep. As I was turning my head to the ceiling, my eyes caught a glimpse of something in the left corner of the wall by the entertainment system. As I looked over, I could see a big black mass and I immediately leapt out of my bed, yelling, "No, no, no." That immediately woke James up, and immediately after that, the entire power of the house goes off, and the smoke alarms start blaring. As the smoke alarms are emanating this loud, shrieking noise, I ran over to the hallway and was hysterically crying from pure fear. As I explained to James what I saw and what was happening to the best of my ability, as James was consoling me, he looked white in the face. After what seemed like an eternity, the smoke alarms finally stopped blaring and the power turned back on. As the TV and cable system lit up again, but that was the only light except for the moon. As we walked back to the bed and lay down, I still didn't feel right. I turned to look, and that black mass was still there. I sat up and faced my back to that wall, and James started to pray for whatever was in the room to go away. Eventually, from pure exhaustion, we fell asleep. The next morning, we were trying to figure out what had happened, and James told me something that literally sends a chill down to my spine every time I talk about it. James said he didn't want to tell me this last night, but when the power went off, James looked at the entertainment center, and the stereo system was turned on with the words that said, "Hello," written across the screen.
And that's why we love the Swamp Dweller around here, because it is always a spooky night when we dip into the pool with the Swamp Dweller. Yes, you could go to YouTube, find thousands of stories from Swamp Dweller at youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads. And let us now continue the cryptid talk with Bigfoot Michigan Rob filling in for Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. And here is the Cryptid Report.
Doo-doo-doo.
Oh, it's beautiful. Wearing the red bandana tonight, Bigfoot Michigan Rob is here for the Cryptid Report. How you doing, Big Rob?
You know, Dave, I'm doing fantastic. Been a long day, and I'm just glad to be here filling in for Duke. Of course, I am not Duke. It's funny because I talk to Duke once a week, and Tuesdays and Thursdays I will get a call, and I know, well, maybe Duke's got a migraine. Maybe Duke's out in the woods. No, he calls me today, Rob, I'm painting battle armor. Can you fill in for me today? I said, battle armor? You're going to fight some giants? No. It's this medieval thing I got going on. So there we have it.
Well, he does have the hair for it.
He
totally
does.
has the hair for it. So it works out. What do you got for us tonight, my man?
Yeah, I got two cool stories. Well, one, we'll see how much time we got. And
we got 15 minutes. We got 15 minutes for you.
Well, let's see. Kent County, Michigan, 2019. It's a husband and wife trucker team. In fact, what they would do is for 2 weeks, the husband would go out and work. He'd come home. The wife would go for 2 weeks out and work. Now, they live in the woods in Kent County. Now, whenever the husband left to go on his 2-week run for their employment, the wife would always claim to have spooky things happen around her house. She would claim to have rocks thrown at her house. She would hear like tree breaks, limb breaks, I should say, in the distance, weird and strange howlings. She also told her husband one night she thought that she heard something bipedally walking on the roof. So one night she hears his footsteps on her roof. So she calls the state police in Michigan, and they send out a car, blah, blah, blah. Tell her no intruders. They don't see any footprints. They say everything's fine. Go back to bed. So the interesting part of this is the next morning, right around in the afternoon time, about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, a state trooper from Michigan pulls up to her home. He says, "Yeah, let's call him Trooper John, Trooper Tom." So Trooper Tom comes up and says, "Hey, I'm just following up on a report last night, and in the report they had made mention about somebody walking on your roof." And so she goes, "Yeah, but it's more than that. I always hear these weird sounds in the distance. I hear like wood knocks, like somebody's beating on a tree stump or whatever." So Trooper Tom looks and says, "Wow, ma'am, you know what? I'm a part-time Bigfoot researcher at night, and you know what? I'd love to hang out tonight if I can, in fact, and stay on your property if you don't mind. I've got camping gear, and I'd love to investigate your property." So he goes, "Well, just for kicks," he says, I'm going to try something. Hope you don't mind." And she says, "Okay." So he goes over and he goes to his squad car, and he gets out a stick or a small baseball bat, and he hits a tree, makes a wood knock, I should say. Does this several times. Now, during this time, you can hear all the animals. You can hear the birds singing. It was a beautiful nature day. All the sounds are just in full force. Then all of a sudden it stops. All the sounds in nature stop. It's the daytime. And then he hears a wood knock back. And now he says, "Ma'am," let's call her Becky. "Ma'am, I'm coming back. I want to come back." He's all excited. And she goes, "Sure, that'd be great." So the trooper comes back in the evening after a shift, and he comes prepared. He's got all of his gear. He's got FLIR. He's got the night vision. He's got his tent. He sets up his tent about 50 yards from her house. And her house is in the middle of the woods, surrounds it. There's a nice little meadow out there where he set up camp. So as night proceeds, again, this is the same day, but at nighttime. And all of a sudden, he goes out and he says, and he also brought two-way communication devices like walkie-talkies, and says, "Hey, I'm going to communicate back and forth with you." So to keep an open line of communication. So nighttime comes, and he says, "Now I'm going to be making some sounds. I'll let you know when I make a wood knock, when I make a whoop, or what have you." And so Becky's like, "Fine, that's great. Let you know." So he's doing this for several hours throughout the night. There's no response. And again, at nighttime, you hear all the forest creatures, the animals running around, insects, whatever. So it's getting late. Becky White calls in and says, "Hey, Trooper Tom, I think I'm going to hit the sack." And Trooper Tom says, "Becky, that's okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to pull an all-nighter. I'm going to try to stay up. I haven't got anything. Looks like a lame night. Unfortunately, I'm sorry." She says, "That's okay." He goes, "But what I'm going to do, Becky, is I'm going to put out probably one more whoop, one more sound, and probably a tree knock. Just to let you know it's me. Don't be rattled or anything like that." So she goes, "Fine, thank you." So about a couple minutes later, there is a wood knock. Now Becky gets on the radio. "Hey, Trooper Tom, I didn't know that you were going to do that wood knock directly in back of my house. You're about 50 yards away. How'd you get down here so fast?" He says, "Becky, I'm on the way to your house right now. I heard that as plain as day too, and that wasn't me."
Oh my.
Yeah. So he's making his way toward the house. And all of a sudden, Becky kind of says, "Oh my Lord, it's on the roof. There's something on my roof." Now, Trooper Tom, man, he's all excited. I mean, and he stops. He's trying to look. Now you got to remember, it's dark outside. He's looking toward the roof. He can't see nothing. Then he remembers, "Oh my God, I got my FLIR on me." Gets his FLIR. He looks at the roof of the house. He can't find anything. He's panning around. Then he picks up a red object. It's a thermal image. And this thing takes is running toward the edge of the house. He sees it. It leaps off the roof of the house, lands on the ground, takes 2 steps bipedally toward the wood line, then drops to all fours, and it's gone in an instant. Now, he gets back. He talks with Becky. You know, he explains what he saw, what she heard. He goes out. He's trying to look around around the perimeter of the house for a track. Now, what he does find about 10 feet from where he's seen it leap, he did find a set of prints, and they were embedded deep into the ground. In fact, you could see then where it pushed off. So now he's looking for additional tracks because, as I made mention, it dropped to 4 legs, but 4 legs. But he couldn't find nothing. But then he said, "Hey, you know, it's nighttime. I'm gonna stay the night. And I'm gonna investigate and look around in the morning." Well, they look around in the morning. He still sees those 2 tracks, but you know, he finds nothing else as though it vanished into the wood line.
Just vanished.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. And that was the end of that report. And I like to really follow up on that story. But you know, we hear these stories all the time about whatever it is. Can I say that was a Sasquatch? I couldn't tell you what that was, Dave, just from reading that story, that report. But we hear it all the time. You see footprints stop. Even this image, I mean, when it dropped to all fours on the thermal, it just disappeared off the thermal. Did it run that fast? Did it go into another dimension, a portal? I don't know. These are the stories that I really love reading because it's fascinating. And that's why I'm doing this, because it's so hard to comprehend.
You know what amazes me about a story like that is, you know, how did this thing get on the roof?
That's a great question. Now, you know, obviously with me not seeing the home, obviously there wasn't a lot of detail in the story that I read, but you know, maybe, I don't know. I mean, if the tree is sitting back in the woods, perhaps it went up a tree and got on top. It doesn't leave any height. I mean, obviously, in the FLIR, you can't see how big it is. Those are like blobs, right? So it'd have to be really big and pull itself up, or maybe perhaps come from a tree and get on top. I don't know. I'm sure they can jump on it. I mean, we don't know. We know these cryptids have strength and athletic ability comparatively speaking to a pro athlete. Who knows, Dave? Who knows?
And I mean, if this thing is a Sasquatch and it's jumping off the roof and leaving prints behind, I mean, those prints had to sink at least 2-3 inches. Rob.
In there, I did leave out, they did sink deep in, and he suggested it might have been a juvenile simply because the length. Now, of course, it's when it hits the ground, it's going to spray out, right? But he measured it about 14 inches long by about 6 inches wide. To me, I'm not no Bigfoot researcher or expert. None of us are, right? But typically you hear about the 17, 18-inch print. So maybe this was a juvenile, a younger one, and maybe that could support the way down the roof. Because I'm thinking, I hear all these stories about these big 9-foot, 10-foot tall Sasquatches. I mean, you're going to have some serious roof damage if they're traipsing atop your roof. So I'm thinking it was maybe a younger one and athletic enough to get up on the roof, you know?
That takes some strength. And to jump from that height, even if it is only like an 8-foot roof, I mean, that's still hard on a human's knees. You know, a human is going to make a little bit more sound. A human, unless you're very athletic, is likely going to fall, potentially injure themselves.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, Dave. It's just, I can't even picture it in my head or fathom it. I cannot. And we got about 4 minutes left.
We got about 5 minutes left. You got time for another one?
I do. I like this one. This one here is really cool. I wanted to get this one out. That one was nice, but this is really, I don't know if this is, since Varla was on, I love Varla. This is kind of creepy. I don't know what this is. In 2020, Grass Lake, Ohio. Now, Grass Lake, Ohio is pretty creepy to say the least. There was a group of researchers. They went out in the woods to do some investigations because reportedly there was some sort of cryptid sighting, but it was not a specified cryptid. There was also strange sounds and howls again being reported. Like, I always come howls. You always hear howls and cryptid sightings, right? So after a couple of days, this group of about 4 guys, they go out to the woods, and they're there 2 days. On the third night, they said, "Yeah, there's no activity here. Let's just hang out and let's pack it up in the morning." So they're all sitting around their campfire, and they're all chit-chatting, talking about the day's events, the exploits, talking about sports, whatever, what guys do around a campfire late at night. Then all of a sudden, it started getting colder. They all felt a chill. They all started feeling kind of strange, and the wind had picked up. And in the distance, they heard this talking, and these guys are trying intently listening in. And now the voices, the talking that they're hearing was them, these guys. It was actually the stories that they were telling was being communicated back to them from the woods. But it wasn't like their exact voices. They could make out the stories they were saying, but it was in a tinny echoing sound, an echo sounding voice, and like kind of low and whispering and raspy, but it was pretty much identical to what they were talking about. And that's where that ends. I guess they skedaddle out of there that night. Now that, my friend, is a creepy story.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I don't know where you're finding these. I mean, but the experiences people are having and reporting on, I mean, they're so different and they seem so unreal, Rob.
They are. I think they are unreal. I got a couple sources that I go to. I get emails from people. I do the show and I do get inundated with emails. But there's this one report. The first report I did, that was like an email. Another one was from this report that I do use, which is pretty reputable, about the earlier incident. And they are. It's sometimes when I read these, it's almost like, do I really want to even make this public or go on Spaced Out Radio and tell the story? But you know what? I go with what you usually say. Hey, I believe, and that's what I tell people. I don't walk in other people's shoes, and the fact that they're letting me, or not letting me, I'm just going ahead and reading these things and talking on them is good enough for me. And you don't know what's out there. You know what, Dave? I had an encounter, as you know, where the thing looked from a Sasquatch and it turned into a demon. And I stand by that every day. And if I seen what I saw, I certainly can believe what other people are seeing.
See, my encounter wasn't like that at all. It was much more peaceful. It was much more loving. It was much more nonchalant, if I could use that term, because the encounter that we had, where I saw 2 of them 100 feet away from me, it was very much, like, hey, we know you're here and we're walking away. We're kind of done with you. That's the way it kind of was with us. But I got to say this. The second encounter that we had in the forest where we got chased out, they need to seriously, they have their right. I guess what I'm trying to say is they seriously have their right to protect their area. We're the strangers.
Yes.
In their territory. And they don't like us. They want us to leave. We can leave. And that's what they did. There was something that obviously bothered them regarding us being there. And that's what they wanted. They wanted us out.
Yeah.
So thank goodness it wasn't more violent.
No, thank goodness for that, for sure. And, Dave, too, since I've been doing this, 90% of the reports that I get or read, or people that come on the show or whatever they do, they are not aggressive. A lot of it is a Sasquatch crossing the road, or some cryptid crossing the road, or they hear the wood knock, or they get a blob squatch on their camera, but when you get those ones that are kind of out there, it makes you think, wow. Because just like you're saying about protection, when Robin McCrae was on the show, I'm not going to get into that, but it was this whole mind speak thing. And she was telling me that she tapped into that. And I was in the area where the babies were. So Hey, you're protecting their area. Thanks, Dave.
Bigfoot Michigan Rob on the Cryptid Report tonight, doing an excellent job filling in for Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio. Coming up next, it's Dave 101. We'll be right back, right after this word. Good job, Robert.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Oh, and I do want to say, I want to make mention, I forgot I was saying this earlier. I am wearing Michigan Wolverine pajama bottoms. That's right. Michigan Wolverine pajama bottoms.
Nice. Nice. One of
All right.
these nights, we're going to have a show us your pajama bottoms night.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that if Duke's not available, or I'll just come on anyway. They're very comfortable, and I did get them. I got them for $5.99 at Walmart.
Nice. Nice.
And I hate Walmart.
That's okay. You got what you wanted.
You got that right. Yeah, you got that right.
You have a good night, buddy.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks. See everybody in chat. Bye.
Take care. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, everybody. How awesome is he? Just a good, solid dude right there. Solid dude. We love him around here. I miss his bar days, though. I do. I miss his bar days. He's got to get another bar. Hang on out and put up the shows. Bigfoot Alley, we'll call it. Bigfoot Alley. Have a big party there in Michigan. Why not? Why the hell not? Hmm. Sorry, Jeremy, just putting my thinking cap on here for a sec for Dave 101. No, I didn't cut my hair, dude. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where I've chosen a topic of the week, which leads us to the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Now, I'm not a smart man, but the one thing I am is very open-minded to learn from my peers. The one thing that I didn't ever enjoy when I was going through high school was science. I'm nowhere close to being a scientist. I'm nowhere smart enough to be a scientist. I am nowhere understanding enough to know much about science. But there is a little bit that I do know, is that science is everything, and that science is ever evolving. And this is where it takes us regarding the UFO field. Because there is a brilliant scientist out there who continues to rattle the cages of anybody who believes in UFOs. And that is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, reading his resume, Neil deGrasse Tyson is a brilliant, brilliant man. You cannot take that away from him. All right, he's an astrophysicist, planetary scientist, author, science communicator. He studied at Harvard. He studied at the University of Texas at Austin, Columbia University. He got his postdoctoral research associate from Princeton. All right, and then he joined the hated planetarium. He has dedicated his life to what is up in space. And I think this is great. But you know, the one thing about this show that I have been able to take advantage of in my limited amount of knowledge when it comes to science is that there is a huge difference between science and opinion. Everybody can choose what they want to believe and what they do not want to believe. But the arrogance that we have seen over the last few years regarding Neil deGrasse Tyson and the possibility that UFOs and extraterrestrials may be here has been really unfathomable. I remember talking to one scientist who told me, Dave, all of us scientists are geeks. We grew up on Star Trek. We grew up on Star Wars. There's nothing more that we would like than to explore the supernatural nova that is out there regarding everything that is woo. We would love to bring scientific answers to it. But Neil deGrasse Tyson continues to literally crap all over the UFO field. This is what I do not understand, is why he is doing this. There are people out there who are just as smart as him, that are just as interested in UFOs and are taking this subject extremely seriously. Yet, for Mr. deGrasse Tyson, he wants to make fun of little green men and spaceships. He's not saying that there isn't life out there somewhere. What he is saying is it's impossible for them to get to Earth and be here now. And he makes fun of people who believe that they have been abducted, believe they have had sightings. His skepticism on the entire topic is extremely flawed. Now, for a scientist, would you not want to be a part of this story? Would you not want to investigate it the way you would something else? We see scientists all the time wasting money and grants on the stupidest of projects. I remember a couple of years ago, we did a story on this, and I read through a few of them. The one that stuck with me was a $300,000 grant to an American university to study how cougars, that's mountain lions, okay, not ladies on heels, how they reacted to walking on a treadmill. 300 grand. What the hell does that have to do with life? Every year, hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on grants on many things that for everyday life we will call useless. But when it comes to space, not many scientists want to put their name on the UFO story. There are some brave men and women, part of the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, otherwise known as the SCU, who will meet this weekend for their annual convention, who will hang out there and discuss the plausibilities of what is happening right now in UFOs. The UFO topic is a hotbed of information. We have U.S. Congress looking into it, other governments looking into it, politicians taking this story seriously, the media making it front page news and headline news. Yet, around here, Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks it's all a nothing burger. This is where science gets into trouble. When you start opining your opinion rather than looking at the scientific data that has been found. All one would have to do is look at the brand new documentary, A Tear in the Sky. I can tell you right now, scientists like Kevin Knuth, who appeared in that documentary, Dave Mason, were using high-tech scientific technology to try and track these craft. Why wouldn't he look at that? Science is about expanding. We do not know everything. For if we did know everything, wouldn't we have solved the life after death mystery? Rather than just saying it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust, you're one and done? Wouldn't we have solved other mysteries about how we got here? Because right now, it's all theory. What about the theory of extraterrestrials coming here? It's just as plausible. Yet Neil deGrasse Tyson, every chance he gets on any major media outlet, wants to absolutely lambaste anyone who is looking into this phenomena. Dr. Bob McGuire is a smart man. He is our resident scientist. He was the head of science and mathematics at Virginia Tech University. I would say that's a pretty smart guy. He says it's very dangerous in our conversations for deGrasse Tyson to be doing this. In fact, he thinks it makes him look like a fool. My words, not the doctor's. What about Avi Loeb from Harvard? He's an astrophysicist. Same education, same doctorate as Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why don't they have a conversation? So that way, deGrasse Tyson can learn more about the Galileo project. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a huge, huge voice on the scientific community and with governments and businesses alike. He's a television star. He is a scientific rock star, if there ever was one. But for him to continually put down the UFO field and ignore the statistics, the information, and everything that has been caught on data, both from the military and from people just like you and me, is absolutely ignorant. I don't have to be a scientist to be able to say that Neil deGrasse Tyson looks like a fool on this subject. That would be like a chef stating that they don't want to cook steak because they don't believe steak exists, even though you can get it at every supermarket and every butcher. Bad comparison, I know, but once again, I'm not a scientist, and I never claimed to be a smart man. What I do know is this. We need more scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson to look at the information, study the information, give the information a 100% effort, hell, even a 50% effort, before you make erroneous claims that this phenomena is not real. You can tell he doesn't even bother looking at the studies, the way he talks arrogantly about the subject. He doesn't want to learn from Avi Loeb. He doesn't want to learn from what the government knows. He doesn't want to learn from Eric Davis or Hal Puthoff or Dr. Bob McGuire, Dr. Michael Masters, many others. Richard Hoffman and Robert Powell from the SCU, I'm pretty sure they would love to have a conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson to show him what they have found. All right? We have brilliant people looking into this subject on a daily, if not hourly basis. But unfortunately, when it comes to the media, they don't know who Dr. Bob McGuire is. They don't know who Robert Powell is. They don't know who Dr. Paul Kingsbury is, or barely Avi Loeb. Or how about Gary Nolan at Stanford University, who has his own laboratory named after him, and the studies he is doing about UFOs and ET contact. No, people as smart as deGrasse Tyson are ignored by the man, because this is where the ego comes into play. deGrasse Tyson doesn't want to be wrong. He's a rock star. He's one of those people that when the media calls, he can be the man to talk to. He likes being the man. You can tell. Remember, this is a man who helped kill Pluto as a planet. He's evil. I don't mean in that way, but I'm saying for Pluto, he's evil. There's 9 planets, not 8. But then again, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just a guy behind a microphone. I'm just a guy who is here telling it like I see it. Neil deGrasse Tyson could be a huge, huge voice for the UFO community, but his own ignorance and ego will not allow him to look at the data, to look at the information, and to talk to those who are truly studying it. Look, you don't need to believe the experiencer. You don't need to believe the videos. You don't need to believe MUFON. You don't need to believe Peter Davenport at Newfork. You don't need to believe what the government says or their videos they have released. But stop crapping on your own scientific colleagues who have put their own blood, sweat, and tears into what could be a massive story and massive scientific feat if the extraterrestrials arrive. But deGrasse Tyson won't do that. He's too proud. You can tell. He's too smug. He's too egotistical. He's too arrogant. And that's why he uses opinion over science. Look, we see this all the time in every field. Okay. And once again, you don't need to be a scientist to figure it out. We see opinions about what Bigfoot is. Look at the BFRO. We see these groups of people, these weekend warriors that go out ghost hunting, claiming that they are creating scientific studies about the paranormal when you know they're not. There's a lot of false science out there. And I could understand why deGrasse Tyson doesn't want to get in the mix. That's easy to see. But I'm pretty sure that Avi Loeb, Gary Nolan, Jacques Vallée, Robert Powell, Richard Hoffman, Dr. Eric Davis, and many, many more could easily have a very serious conversation to show deGrasse Tyson that the phenomena is extremely real, and more importantly, that the phenomena is already here. But the good television doctor and scientist first needs to open his eyes and realize this isn't about him. This is about humanity. And science can lead to those answers that we are missing right now. Be the voice, Neil. You have the opportunity to do so. You have the ability to do so. But will you take that chance? I highly doubt it. And that is your Dave 101. Do me a favor, if you are listening on YouTube or on social media, head to our YouTube channel. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. I want to know what you think, and let me know. All right, let's get to Shirky Poo's news.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's news!
All right. Hey, we've been following this time traveler on TikTok from 2236. Yep. And we got some more predictions. Now, the time traveler boom going huge on TikTok, by the way. We don't take it very seriously, but it does make for fun news. And the anonymous time jumper stands by his claims that I am a real time traveler. So you know they're legit the minute they have to admit it to themselves. From the year 2236. Well, here's some more reports of what he's looking forward to in 2022. Let us move on with it. First up, they claim that humans are going to have their first real alien contact with outer space species called Azaraks, or Azarks. Azarks, that's A-Z-A-R-K, or pardon me, X. For the Americans out there, that's A-Z-A-R-X, who will touch down on the south side of Alaska on July 7th. Well, somebody put that on your bingo card. Next up, a hacker by the name of Stack will supposedly delete over 36.7 million TikTok accounts due to their strong beliefs against social media on August 13th. Oh, he's not done yet. The last one, October 12th, there will be a deadly meteor named the Draconids, which will hit Europe, causing many casualties. Now, there's been over 110,000 views on this. Most people just scratching their heads, wondering what's going on. But this guy, well, we got 3 more dates for the bingo card. Let's see if they actually come true. Well, Netflix is getting into the snowflake game. You may have been called one by that random uncle. Why don't these kids get it these days? Why are they so offended? Well, apparently Netflix has a brand new reality TV show called Snowflake Mountain. According to the show's official synopsis, a bunch of clueless kidults are put through their paces at a wilderness survival retreat, try and kickstart them into standing on their own 2 feet. There's no running water, no parents, and worst of all, no Wi-Fi. Welcome to Snowflake Mountain, a place where ragtag, stuck-at-home snowflakes with 0 life skills have to step up to the plate. Built as a wilderness boot camp, our snowflakes will compete to see who has what it takes, competing for a life-changing prize and the chance to kickstart their life and liberate their parents. The streaming giant adds, in what seems to be the world's strictest parents meets Bear Grylls, the new show aims to make the group of 10 spoilt 20-somethings stand on their own 2 feet as they are put through their paces against the backdrop of the great British countryside, with the winner reportedly snagging a cash prize. Oh, there's going to be a lot of tears. I wonder if the first place thing they'll make is a safe place to cry. That's what I'm wondering. All right. These people couldn't figure out who was breaking into their house in Tennessee. Julie and Jimmy Johnson love dogs. They have 3 of their own that regularly sleep in their bed. However, recently they woke up to find a large tan dog sandwiched between them that was not one of their own. You can see light coming into our curtains into the bedroom. I feel my husband not just roll over, but kind of startled, like he almost jumped, rolled over, and woke me up. It was quite a stern voice, but he says, "Whose dog is this?" Julie admitted she was confused, thinking it was, of course, either Hollis, Jupiter, or Zeppelin, one of their 3 dogs. When she rolled over, there was an unknown dog in their bed. Yeah, it didn't take much time after that to realize the strange dog was not a threat, but instead a cuddle bug, maybe a bit of a bed hog, as it pushed the Johnsons on both sides of their king bed. After taking a look at the dog and realizing it must have owners of its own, Julia started taking some selfies of the bizarre and funny situation, posted them on Facebook, and so far, no response. Whose strange dog is sleeping in your bed? Beware. Things could have been worse. Could have been. Thank you to the Swamp Dweller for a great night of spooky stories. Thank you for Bigfoot Michigan Rob filling in for Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio on the Cryptid Report. Very much appreciate that. All of you for hanging on in there, listening to me talk non-science about Neil deGrasse Tyson on the Dave 101. And, of course, our favorite cryptid countess, Varla Ventura. For Our Cryptid World, you can find her books at any major bookstore, as well as on our website, varlaventura.net.
Everyone's got an electric eye where the digital spies.
We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone on our chat rooms, YouTube, LGAP, Facebook, Twitter, the Space Travelers Club, and wherever you are, rocking out with us and chatting away. We love you so much.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, you've got room for them too. Good night. Stunning Stephanie, the trumpet song, I have no idea. I'm trying to find it myself, to be honest with you. I found it on YouTube in one of the copyright-free, royalty-free music channels about jazz. And be damned if I can find it again. I don't know where it is or what have you. Like, I don't even know where to look. I guess I could go back to my YouTube search, but I've had the song for so long, I don't even know if I'll find the right one. I really don't. Hi, Terry Brown. How are you? So I apologize. I don't have the name for it or anything. Wish I did. I know it's. I wanted I think it was slow jazz, trumpet jazz, or something I typed in, and I just kind of found it. My hair is poofy today. That's right, Thurston Howell III, the sensual horns of Spaced Out Radio. I wish I could give you more information on that, but I really don't have it. So I'm sorry about that. I'll try and be paying attention more. I think if you use, hi, gorgeous Larry, how you doing? I think if you use one of those music apps, tell me what song it is or whatever. I think you can use one of those, and that would tell you. That's what I think. Boy, this looks a little hot. Give me 1 second here, people. I'm going to have to listen to this.
Really like Cryptid Countess. Thank you. I really like that one.
I love it. And downright good person, Varla Ventura, to come on in and join us to talk about monsters. Why is that so hot? Okay, so that's that level there. All right. Right, dirty filth. Oh, that wasn't my hair, Fap. That wasn't my hair. Hey, I just need people buying the stuff that we've already made. There's a number of you who have lately, which is awesome. Applesauce, I collect hot sauce bottles.
They kind of look like dress pants.
Next break.
Okay.
The pajama bottom talk, Grant. Completely your fault.
So much.
Any questions, comments? Let's see here. Where's number 3? 3 should start right there. Nope, start right over here. Cut that. It's amazing. I'm so it's amazing. Like this is going so slow. In a couple seconds here, guys. All right. Almost done. No, there isn't an official SOR hot sauce. Love there to be, but not yet. Good night, Body Tech. You should always finish a GNR album. Should never leave that just sitting there. Unless it's the Spaghetti Incident, because that album was just bloody terrible. I'll be right back, guys. I'm just going to go for a quick bathroom break. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Let's do this here. Get rid of. Oh. Remove that. Put these ones in there. And convert those. Give me 2 seconds here, guys. I just got to send this off to the radio stations. And back we are with you. All right. Let's turn this off. Turn that off. Let's shut this one down. One computer down. Thanks, Simon. Oh, you jerk. Hey, Oob, did you capture anything on your trail cam? Thanks, Mark Ford. Appreciate that, buddy. Let's see here. Blurry. Am I looking blurry? Let me look here. Hold on. Oh, I have to go through the ads right now. Oh, I am looking blurry. What's with that? What's with that? Because on my camera, I look totally clear. Very weird. Very weird. Maybe that'll work? I don't know. No, that didn't seem to work. Why is it saying my connection is unstable? Plug into your router or move closer to it. I'm plugged directly into my router. What more do you want from me? It doesn't get a bit crude and lewd. Everyone's having fun. Oh, it's the uploading thing. That would do it. That would do it. Yep, that would totally do it. See if that turns off now. No, not yet. Not yet. That's a little bit better. Weird. My hair is poofy. It's poofy, people. I've got poofy hair right now. Tomorrow night on the show, we got the round table. We are going to be talking about Lou Elizondo stepping away from ufology and the public eye outside of mainstream media. So I'm going to have a cast of characters here hanging on out with us to do the show. And it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to say thank you tonight to our super chatters. Long Island Bigfoot, Christopher, Grant, ×3, Stephen in the UK, Nicole, Kira ×2, Vaughn, and Stu for the great super chats. We really do appreciate it. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you. And yeah, I guess on that, I'm going to be saying goodnight here because I have to get to bed. I got to work in the morning, but we'll see you all tomorrow. It's been a great time chatting with you all tonight. Thank you for a great show. Love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay? All right, I'll be here. You guys do too.